to put your screen on speaker view. I will stop sharing my screen and we will begin our sermon. I'm going to tell you something you already know. America is at a crossroads. In the coming year, our actions will define our country for generation or more to come. It seems that we're on the verge of losing democracy, civility, and truth. This country is at a crossroads. Science is in battle with opinions to determine the policy in the middle of a pandemic. Thousands are dying each day from COVID-19. And at the same time, the US is reckoning with centuries of racial injustice as the White House stokes divisions along racial lines. We are all feeling anxious and stressed. We're experiencing a collective global trauma made particularly difficult by the prolonged nature and the total uncertainty that lies before us and forces all the changes into our lives that we didn't ask for. These are perilous times, but you know this. That's why so many of us are struggling, anxious, because we don't know what'll happen next. And without any kind of comprehensive plan, we've become unmoored and float on a stormy sea without sail or rudder. But you know this, and I know you know this because you've said so. When we start our church meetings with a check-in, we share with each other our concerns, our angst, our grief, and our fears. We all need relief, a break, a change from sheltering in place, something to ease the cloud of depression hanging over us. We need comfort. But where can you find comfort in these trying times? If you do a web search, type in "finding comfort during a pandemic," you'll find a lot of articles listing all sorts of activities that the author recommends, from baking bread to gardening to binge watching movies to the one that really infuriated me that said "stay calm." I don't know about you, but when someone tells me to stay calm, I just get upset. And of course, there's those activities that appear on every list of self-improvement: eat a healthy diet and exercise. There's nothing wrong with baking, gardening, or exercising. But do these activities produce the comfort we seek, or are they just a distraction? But rather than give you a prescriptive sermon on what you ought to do, I thought I'd just share a few activities that I do in order to gain some comfort during these very uncomfortable times. There are two that I'll share with you today of my practices to gain comfort. One of my practices is to notice. I first came upon this from my home church in Salt Lake City. The minister, Tom Goldsmith, there has been there since 1987. Prior to that, he served at a congregation in Sitot, Massachusetts. His first parish, 1975. And that town is right on the edge of Massachusetts, facing the ocean. It's north of Cape Cod, and it's a fishing town, a fishing village. And Tom tells the story that one time he sees one of his congregants leaning up against a building, just looking out on the horizon to the ocean. And he walks up to him and says, "Bill, what are you doing?" And Bill turned around to Tom and said, "I'm noticing." For me, noticing is not meditation. It's not being present in the Buddhist sense. It's not giving a glancing look at something or some person. Noticing involves a deep focus on some tiny aspect of the world. Noticing is when you stare at a flower for 15 minutes or longer. Noticing is when you sit in one spot and watch the waves hit the seashore for an hour. Noticing is when you close your eyes in your backyard and listen to each sound with deep focus. It's not when you're on the beach checking your messages or taking pictures or updating your Facebook page. It's not exercising listening to your favorite tunes. Noticing is single tasking, without judgment, without analysis, and without too much thought. You see, most of us have forgotten how to relax. We have denied ourselves the time to truly unwind and put our busyness on hold. Most of us have been raised to be busy and productive, and our work sets us free. We are taught that not working is being lazy, and that's a sin. And this cultural yoke of judging our lives by how much we accomplish has the detrimental effect that when we don't feel like doing something, guilt comes over us. This becomes a double whammy. When we are sad and overwhelmed and we just don't feel like working on our to-do list, we then get upset with ourselves because we're not working, which brings on more guilt about not working, which makes us sadder and more depressed. Down, down, down we spiral. So it's not natural for me to stop what I'm doing and go into deep noticing. But when I do, I experience a warm comfort of being at ease and relaxed. You may call it laziness, but laziness in the form of noticing can be a teacher and not something to resist or eliminate. Pema Chodron talks about laziness this way, quote, "But if we ask ourselves, where does joy come from? Where does inspiration come from? We will find that they do not come from getting rid of anything. They do not come from dividing ourselves in two and struggling against our own energy. They do not come from seeing laziness as an opponent or as something out there that we should leap over. We can unite with laziness, be our laziness, know its smell and taste, feel it fully in our body. A moment of laziness becomes our personal teacher." You see, for comfort for me can come from slowing down and noticing. And sometimes I can even avoid the guilt of feeling like I'm being lazy. But a practice of noticing is about comforting myself. It's a solitary process. So I have another comfort practice that wonderfully complements noticing. It's the practice of serving others. This practice comes with the same dichotomy as the first. That is, while noticing can be comforting, it can seem like laziness and guilt-inducing. Likewise, serving others may provide comfort, but it seems so contradictory. Why should I take on someone else's problems when I can't handle my own? This is the irony. In the yearning to get out of our discomfort, we avoid helping other people and give comfort to them. That seems to make sense from a selfish viewpoint, but the irony is that I can achieve a feeling of comfort, peace, when I interface and connect with someone else in a compassionate way. This routinely happens on Zoom meetings even. I am calmed when I am being with other people. Now, just being with people doesn't produce comfort. There's a lot of ways to interface with people that will not bring comfort to you. There's a lot of ways that people will upset you. There are a lot of ways that you can upset other people. Perhaps you've experienced that. But there's always ways of being with people where you can comfort them. And by comforting them, you get comforted. Being a non-judgmental presence, just listening to someone, can give you comfort. Being a fixer, deep listener, can give comfort. Being a calm, non-anxious presence can give comfort. And for that which you give, you also receive. You don't have to be a Buddha to comfort someone. You don't have to be in a state of bliss and peace before you can comfort someone. You don't have to be a complete non-anxious presence. You just have to be less anxious than the person you're with. Sometimes you don't have to say a word. Just be a witness. Likewise, you don't have to spend your whole day staring at a spot on the wall to be a noticer. You can notice little things at a time, and you can get better with practice. I have found that comfort can be found and even created with simple things, non-obvious, counterintuitive, noticing and serving others. If you're willing to go even further, you can try to notice another person that you are with. I don't mean to stare at them speechless for 30 minutes. That won't do. But focus all your attention on them and be fully present with them. That's combining noticing and serving others. And I can almost promise you comfort will arise for both of you. The world's a mess and doesn't show any indication of getting better anytime soon. We're at a crossroads without a map and without any leadership. What can we do? I say, first, take care of yourself. Then, work to serve others around you. Be with them without judgment and without trying to fix them. For me, during the pandemic, this has been a good combination. And I pray that you will find your own ways of finding comfort in a very uncomfortable world. Blessed be, and amen.